watching the Jal Jeevan Conclave organized by IHW Council. All through the day, we've heard experts talk about the importance of safe, clean drinking water and all the infrastructure that is required in developing countries like ours to ensure that safe water reaches every household and we are protecting lives through saving them from waterborne, non-communicable diseases. In this discussion, we are going to talk about innovative solutions and technology for public water supply infrastructure. A public water supply system, bulk water transfer, treatment plants, removal of contaminants where water quality is an issue, water source management and distribution network, and which requires reaching every household. This requires technological interventions and upgradation in the existing infrastructure. It also influences the water support systems, development of utilities, water quality laboratories, water quality testing and surveillance, R&D knowledge centers, and capacity building of communities. In this session, we'll focus on government efforts in developing a framework for overall water supply infrastructure, water quality monitoring systems, and strengthening operations and maintenance of water supply and the role of private players in supplying advanced technology and innovative support. Please welcome our dignitaries joining us for this session. Please welcome Dr. Subramanya K. Kusnur, Founder, Chairman, and CEO, AquaCraft Projects, and Ms. Madhumita Banerjee, Program Manager, Gurujal, District Administration of Gurugram. A warm welcome to both of you. Thank you so much for joining us on this show today. Now, Ms. Banerjee, let me start with you. Now, under the Jal Jeevan Mission Har Ghar Jal scheme, every rural household is to be provided with functional tap water connections by 2024. Now, we're already seeing water scarcity issues in urban centers where we have piped water. Plus, contamination is also being reported in colonies through sewage water, through other contaminants. So, is just piped water at home a guarantee of safe drinking water, and hence you don't get these waterborne diseases?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me. You have raised a very pertinent question because, in fact, the water quality is out of picture many years back. People don't talked about that much because first was that water should reach out. Now, over the period, the kind of lifestyle we are dealing with, the kind of waste is dumping on our water bodies, and the leachates are reaching even to the groundwater. So there's a huge concern regarding the quality of water which is we are getting, and how often the testing is happening. Is there any methodology by which we can check that how much our water is safe in terms of drinking purposes? So as far as the question of a rural community, yes, there is a huge concern because definitely they do not have, as of now, excess of water. And secondly, to address this contamination, we are working on water mapping. What are the sources through which water is coming? Once we are completed this mapping, then only we will understand what are the nearby sources which may cause the contamination, and probably how possibly those contamination measures can be stopped or can be taken care of.
All right, so water mapping is important to identify the source of contamination in the water, and there are different sources of water which is then perhaps being poured and supplied. Dr. Subramanya, now in our previous panel discussions, we have heard from infrastructure planners saying that yes, the effort is made for piped water in the household, but you still may need filtration because surface water you could perhaps take care of the contaminants. Groundwater contamination could come from anywhere, right? And you need testing, you need monitoring. So be safe, get your own filter. But many people in our country don't have the resource to have an individual filter. What's the way out?
Well, it's a very interesting question. And water, irrespective of whether it's at pipe levels or any other levels, it's a natural resource. You cannot control the chemistry of the raw water. So it's very essential to understand what is the kind of chemistry around it. And we consciously, when we started the business around 10 years ago, we also invested into creating an NABL recognized water testing laboratory. And when you talk about newer technologies, now we are trying to create IoTs not only to maintain and monitor the flow of the water, but also to identify contamination. In the first stage, to identify whether water is potable, non-potable. If it is non-potable, just arrest the supply so that you do not end up into any kind of a communicable disease. And if it is potable, then also identify what is the level of minerals it has. So classic example, and you've got this question very well, the Honorable NGT has banned reverse osmosis as a technology for TDS below 500. This essentially is one of the key things which is, it's a landmark judgment in the country because RO ends up wasting almost 100% of water that it treats, number one. And number two, even the public health initiatives and the inferences that were drawn during the COVID have shown that the minerals that have been taken away, natural minerals that have been taken away, which contribute to building immunity, have been reduced.
But Dr. Subramaniam, how many people have stopped using RO because of this? We still worry about typhoid, right? So even though there is increasing evidence that RO is a waste of water, demineralization doesn't help you, we're still afraid. We still don't want dysentery. We just still don't want cholera. We don't want typhoid. These are things we have grown up in our childhood dreading. So every house still has an RO.
One of the key things is advocacy is important. And right since we started in 2000, we've been advocating this particular activity. And fortunately, 4 state governments have complied and they've subscribed to our philosophy right now. And we are trying to show this entire initiative. Our technology does not require power. It works on gravity. Doesn't waste water. Maintains all the natural minerals. And that's the reason we invested into testing very importantly. So when you say whether piped water is safe water, it's a very relative statement to make. So eventually, till the time we completely replace our entire distribution of public water supply, because the pipes could be contaminated. There could be contamination points at multiple levels. And you cannot control that. And the government is doing a brilliant job, believe me. And at least making water available to everybody is a great story today. And but the people have to be more conscious. Advocacy needs to go towards understanding what is good water, what is corrosive water. So this is an advocacy that we are running across at schools in a program called as Jal Pe Charcha, where we are inculcating this into children and college students because they are the best change agents. And very recently, last week, along with Government of Karnataka, we launched India's first digital water bank. As Madhumita ji rightly said, mapping of resources is very important. And most importantly, in Satara, we are doing a circular kind of a story where we are picking up third-grade plastic, cleaning it, treating it, converting that into plastic pellets so that contamination is not leached down to the ground, and making toilet boards, interlocking toilets, and things like that. So you need to require a holistic 360 degrees approach towards addressing this. And water as a connotation, as a resource, as a requirement, as a life, has got multiple connotations. And technologies are very, very important. Innovation is very important. And most importantly, a partnership with the government, which is the most important stakeholder, is the most critical element that I would say in terms of proliferating this advocacy on a continuous basis.
No doubt, Dr. Subramaniam, the government plays a very important part because for the general populace, रोटी, कपड़ा, मकान, पानी ये तो सरकार की जिम्मेदारी है और सब यही सोचते कि सरकार ही हमें देगी, and many governments want to give even free water to consumers. Now, the question then rises, what message? First, we want people to be aware of good filtration methods which conserve water. The government then also wants to say that if you suspect something, alert authorities. Is there a mechanism that I suspect, oh, my water is very dirty, it is looking grey, and I keep calling Jal Board and I don't get any response? So is there a system where people can raise issues? Mapping is important to understand where contamination is happening. At the user endpoint, does the government emphasize users do something? Madhumita ma'am, what would you like to say here?
So, yes, fortunately, we are in an era where social media and online platforms are immensely functional and approachable. And now I believe most of our population is connected through emailing or WhatsApping or any other such methods. And in our government system, we do have platforms where complaints can be lodged. If you think that I am unable to reach out to the Jal board or any particular officer for that purpose, and not only to reach out, you can refer to the higher authorities as well. So those windows are open now. When the question comes to the addressing point, yes, there is certain challenges, because we need to understand that water doesn't work in silos. Water is something which is affected by many other aspects. The kind of urbanization is happening. The peri-urban areas are also getting into huge infrastructure devastation, I would say, because these all are some or the other way affecting the whole water channel system. There are a lot of leakage points are creating, and our sewage water system, they are getting touching each other, and contamination are getting on there. So that's how it is a holistic problem, not just a problem in a silos. So several department has to work together. Waste is a very, very important aspect. As I can talk about ourselves, as we focus very much into the rural area, we do pond rejuvenation projects, which are a very big water source for nearby communities, though they do not utilize those water as a potable. But we have seen this perennial ponds become a dumping ground because of sewage coming in there. So such challenges are there, which are humongous challenges. It is a little unrealistic expecting to a government to sort out this all with such population.
Right, and the government doesn't have a magic wand to just to wave around and all the problems disappear. Dr. Subramania, you spoke about creating awareness, and you're doing this to school children. Could you also use this platform to talk to us about innovative technologies like yours, where filtration is happening, water is safe, and we are saving water as well? And these are, would you say your strategy or your technology is one that can be used at scale in our country? And is there a one size fit all for our country? Because it's so varied. You have the mountains and you have the coast. You have bountiful rivers like Brahmaputra, and then you have a Kaveri issue. So what works in our country?
Well, we've been focused on creating models where we could show sustainability. We started off as a technology company, and we created a technology to address contamination in groundwater. 80% of our country gets its drinking water from the groundwater. So the first technology that we created was the filtration of water, where we understand the chemistry of raw water, build a treatment protocol accordingly, and address all contaminants across heavy metals, bacteria, and electrical conductivity, and TDS up to 1500. And beyond the 1500, we will, first treat the raw water with our, treatment protocol, and then probably use a membrane or some other mechanism to displace the salt. That's number one. Number second, which focuses towards rural security, and this we did it in the industrial areas, the STP and ETP. This also is on a similar philosophy, does not require power, functions on gravity, uses a bioprocess, no sludge, and unlike standard STPs, which recover 70% water, we recover 98.3% water. And now we are doing a pilot in a state in Maharashtra, in the district in Maharashtra, where we are collecting the entire sewage, treating it, and making water available for agriculture throughout the year, irrespective of rains. So this is another step towards water security. Third thing, biotoilets. Along with the UDCT, the prestigious UDCT, we have a joint R&D partnership with them. We've innovated a biodigester where the fecal matter gets converted into liquid fertilizer and flows down into the ground. The only water that is needed is to wash oneself, which is again treated and recycled back. There is no water needed for flushing. So everything that we do is focused towards creating water positivity. Having said that, it's also important to create public utilities, public convenience centers, using water and sanitation as underlying assets, and build livelihood initiatives. So we created a program called as Being Swachh during the Corona, which is a combination of the hand washing station, a drinking water ATM, and a small pantry to give good food and clear food. So this has been now adopted under the National Rural Livelihood Mission, where women self-help groups will be able to, buy this particular machine, implement it, generate subsidies, and create livelihood for themselves. So we saw that very, very earlier, just technologies don't work. Last but not the least, and Madhumataji, this will interest you, we are working on an app where if you show it to a flow of water, you'll be able to get in the first stage whether the water is potable or non-potable. So having built a complete, water testing lab ground up, it was very, very important for us to understand. Last but not the least, you need to have water professionals. So we built a skill development course which creates people for water management, water audits, and water quality activity. And as I told you, last but not the least, we've created a water bank which incentivizes individuals, communities, corporates, and governments to create a balance sheet of their own and try and inculcate the sense of a holistic picture of what we call as AQUAS, which is access, quality, usage, advocacy, and sustainability. And this water resource, if it is excess on the balance sheet, can be put on the blockchain as a coin and generate economic value. And we are now working with a couple of governments in this. This was launched by the Honorable IT/BT Minister of Karnataka State last week. And yesterday I was in Dubai, we launched it in the Middle East as well. Whole idea is to unlock the economic value of water and not rely on public funds to create infrastructure. Governments can come ahead, offer their activity as a market access program, and the total water resources that you have, 5 or 10% could be put on the block, generate resources, and ensure grassroots level water.
So Dr. Subramania, in this blockchain model that you're talking of, in the ledger on one side you have those who have the supply, the other side you have individuals who have the demand. Does it work like that? Like a transparent ledger?
It's all multi-stakeholder, all-inclusive approach. Anybody can buy, anybody can offset. Because if you restrict it to particular stakeholders, then liquidity will never be generated. And our idea is to go towards individuals. Because despite making rainwater harvesting compulsory in a lot of places, and I'm sure Madhumita will agree with this, the intent to do it is very, very difficult. And if we are able
it's not happening. Everybody's waiting for the everybody's waiting for the incentives, and the incentives aside.
Sarkar, religion or glamour. इन्हीं को लेकर के हमको we have to incentivize people. I have traveled more than 4,700 villages in the last 12 years, harvested more than 2.5 billion liters of water, treated 1.2 billion liters of water till now. I'm still learning.
Yes, no, the incentives are there, but there's still, laziness. There is still
money works everything. Unlocking economic value of a particular resource or a commodity drives everything. And I think the millennials are much more conscious than what we are.
Especially when you come to the summer season and there's no water in your tap, then you will realize the value, and then all these transparent ledgers will perhaps work. Now, Madhumita ma'am, you said that water bodies, surface water bodies, which were abandoned, were being used as dumping areas. So, on one hand, the government is making an effort to ensure we have piped water, and we are conserving water. Why is there a lack of community action? Is there a lack of community action? Why do we have one-off cases of somebody rescuing a pond or reviving a pond when this was very routine? Many years ago in villages, people were doing this. What's happening now?
Yeah. So before I come to this point, I would like to mention, as Dr. Subramaniam said regarding rainwater harvesting, yes, what you mentioned is somewhere correct, but it's not the entire fact. We are working in a specific district. We ourselves created a team which did rainwater harvesting system checks, which is more than 640 units we have checked. We ourselves cleaned more than 300 units in the district. And, there is a mandate you have to have a rainwater harvesting system in a certain area. Defaulters will be always there. Government has policies for penalization, but yes, somewhere that last mile connectivity, that finally the penalty is there, or the person who is complying, incentivization is there or not.
But when water harvesting is only being mandated for newer buildings, right? You are giving incentives to RWAs to do this, and they're still doing nothing. We don't know kiske paas jana hai, kya karna hai, kaise incentive lena hai. So how is this going to work? Is it
Yeah.
going to be a demand side push, or is it going to be something that the government does? How will this work?
So, somewhere, I wouldn't say awareness is not there. Awareness is pretty much there. Builders are aware of the fact that they are mandated to do this, but willingness only comes when there is, strong checking and enforcement drives are happening. So,
And this is for newer buildings. What about old buildings?
so even
उनको तो
though
कुछ नहीं करना.
old buildings also have to make it. It's not like that they do not need to comply with this. Even if they don't have, now they have to have this as per building laws. But the unfortunate part is that our economic system is such that builder has a huge role to play, and they have that power access some or the other way, that somehow with your best effort that last mile connectivity is somewhere missing, and on which we are strongly working. We at our center, as a part of Gurujal Society, we are mandated to work on policy research, and we are advocating very strongly that how possibly we can connect this last mile, where the person who is complying should be incentivized, and the person or the builder or the society or RWA, whomsoever is not complying, there should be a substantial penalty. So this will happen very soon, I'm sure. To come into your question, that the water bodies which are open and becoming a dumping ground, how possibly society can be involved, and how possibly we can. So essentially we are talking about behavioral change, which is never easy to bring. And as Dr. Subramaniam rightly mentioned, that millennials are very, very proactive, and as now the next generation, whom we are calling Gen Zs, they are more and more progressive about this, because the kind of exposure now they have, it wasn't probably in earlier generation. And if you see, typically from 1990 onwards, after liberalization, our lifestyle started changing very fast. The kind of disposable items we are using nowadays, it was never being there in 80s, or if I'm correct, early 90s as well. But now there are excessive disposable items which are used and then dumped very carelessly. Things are changing, people are becoming conscious. It's a constant and regular effort requiring sector. You cannot think or say that government should pose a restriction or government should pose a penalty and problem will be solved. It is never going to solve, because a particular generation has created a habit, they have created a nuisance. The other generation will keep on doing that if they are not really aware, and they are not really willing to finally solve the problem. So now if you see the way schools are training their kids, of course they are teaching them intensively that you are not supposed to do this, and they are taking this back to their families, and that is how we are reaching the mass. And particularly in rural areas, it is now becoming a nuisance, because now they are also having excess of lot of disposable materials. But changes are coming. For example, recently in a village, commonly bhandaras are happening everywhere. And conveniently they use this disposable paper plates. So we give them a solution by collaborating with another NGO, that why don't you use steel plates instead of this? And they did it. It was a huge success. And now it
in
is.
fact, even for birthday parties nowadays, there are catering services that are offering you cutlery which is not disposable, which can be washed and reused. Now, Dr. Subramaniam, these are all great ideas. You have good technology which can be adopted at a scale. You have great ideas using a blockchain model so that you map the demand and supply for water. Now, I just want to ask you, climate change is real. It is happening in our country. Every year there is a flood on one side of the country, there's a drought on another side of the country. It is going to become worse. So does climate change upset the apple cart? What do we do here?
Oh, yes. it's one of the most critical factors of life today. I mean, we got a very clean, beautiful world which a divine force known as God gave us. We distorted it dramatically, and that distortion is today, causing all these things. And water is core to sustainability. Disturbing water and water bodies definitely has got a major impact on climate change. And if you look at that, we did a very interesting project in interior Maharashtra and interior Karnataka, where we run a program called as Swat School, where we encourage school children not only to harvest water, maintain the drinking water and sanitation assets, but also plant water retention plants around the boundary of the school and made it an oasis of every village. So any amount of natural resetting that you do will definitely contribute towards arresting it in a very humble and a minute way. But somebody has to start. And when we started, we also thought the same thing. Advocating sustainability at a time and age when UN had not defined it, at a time and age when human right to water was not proclaimed, we had started it off. But nothing battered us. Every challenge and every tribulation we got actually made our resolve much more stronger, and identifying one problem to the other. So what I would suggest is, when we're looking at technologies as a whole, we should identify technologies which are easily acceptable and usable by the end beneficiaries. There is no point creating a huge amount of, sort of an app and a website, nothing. Every initiative that we do today towards sustainability is SMS based. It's in the local language. It is like an MCQ question paper. These are the three options. Tell us what is happening, 1, 2, 3. Because you have to probe them. You need to pull the information out of them. Nobody is going to come and give you an information for the sake of giving it. And climate change, which is a lot of discussion, the COPs and everything. But when you go to a village, you'll be very surprised, Anisha. Villagers are more understandable. They are more seized of the problems, and they are more concerned on how to share this. I mean, contrary to popular perception that we do policies across sitting in boardrooms and things like this, these people are very, very, very adept. All you need to do is sensitize them and inculcate them and incubate their thinking. All our technologies have come from the problems on the ground. I'll give you a classic example. In Assam and Manipur, whole Northeast and Bengal has got a serious problem of arsenic. And we have got a technology to address that completely. But the first time when I went to PhD Guwahati, they took me to a village near Silchar. And there was a lady who says arsenic comes, that is fine. But from the top of the source till down, she had 5 different kinds of gravels and this thing, which reduced the total risk of arsenic by at least 35-40%. So that gave us an idea that, doing it on gravity saves your entire thing. So you have all your answers in the rural hinterland of this country. Idea is to try and sort of incubate them, identify them, build upon them, and give it back to them itself. That's how sustainability works. So climate change is definitely going to have a serious challenge, and that's why Jal Pe Charcha as a platform that we are driving is like a community radio station. Take their input, give it back to them, and make it an all-inclusive, multi-stakeholder discussion platform. Because one person cannot do everything. And for bringing about a change, we're using this program called as SWAT School, where SWAT is sanitation and water for children or community health and hygiene, which essentially contributes towards, arresting the challenges or the risks coming out from climate change.
All right. I'll give the last word to Madhumita ma'am, and I would like to know from you, how do you see climate change? Because I'm trying to understand if the infrastructure is made in a fashion that it could cater to all possibilities that arise in the future. It could be a drought or a flood. Is the infrastructure ready to deal with all extremes because of climate change?
The duration we have spent on creating this all infrastructure was not really in parallel to the crisis, what we understood is about to come. So to answer your question is we are not ready for sure, But yes, the best part of the whole discussion, or the kind of discussion nowadays we are doing here and there, is that we understood that crisis is not far away. And that is how a lot of efforts and intervention has already started. After this Jal Shakti Mantralaya and the initiative started, lot of water related intervention and technological aspect has working everywhere in every state and district. Typically in our district, I can say that we are working on pond rejuvenation. Since there is a lot of contaminated water is coming in the pond, so we are working on various pilot projects to understand and identify the best suited technology. And we understood that there is no fit to all kind of thing. It depending on the location, it depending on the population, and depending on the given situation, the political, social, etc. So these learnings are helping us on creating a district water plan, which we are working as of now. And the essential aspect of working on that to understand the water balance, how much water we really have in our hand, and how possibly we should utilize, and we need to bifurcate it so that it can last as long as we can, and to make it sustainable during that time. So yes, climate change has a huge impact already. It is visible, and in going time, the crisis will widen up. But thankfully, the efforts have been also parallelly started in this particular reason.
All right. I would like to thank both of you for joining us and sharing with us your knowledge and your wisdom, and your hope for a future where we'll be more water sensitive and be able to provide for clean, safe water, as well as conserving water and doing our own very bit to ensure its availability is enough for everyone. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you, Mandita ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Subramani, for joining us and sharing with us your views.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jai Hind.
With that, we will wrap up the Jal Jeevan Conclave 2022, brought to you by Aisha Blue Council. This is our endeavor to keep the conversation going on the availability of clean water as we celebrate the World Water Day on March 22nd. With that, we'll wrap up the show. Stay tuned to our Aisha Blue Council Facebook page for all the updates on upcoming shows and, of course, health nuggets. Till then, we'll see you again. Goodbye.